Hello everyone, I hope all of you are doing well. So in this video we will go over Lab 8B. It has two questions and so it should be relatively short. Let's go over the first question and try to solve it. Okay, so in this question it says create a program that will function as a simple ATM. So the program will request a password and return an error message if the password is incorrect. If the password is correct, the program will request an amount and will subtract the amount from the balance and display the new balance. If the amount is greater than the balance, then an error message will be displayed. Typical runs of the program should look similar to the following. Enter your password, whatever that password is, invalid password, and the valid password actually is 1234, because if you notice it didn't display invalid password in this case, right? So the correct password would be 1234. You have to then ask for the amount from the user, and the amount, if it is greater than the balance that the user has in the account, then you have to print out insufficient funds. Your balance is 7,500. Again, enter your password again, enter the amount again, and then if you give the amount that is less than the balance you have, then you have to subtract it from your balance and display the actual balance that is remaining now. It says the following code is already present in the main method. So the scanner is there as a global variable. Notice how it's after the public class. So and because it has the word static, it's a global variable or class level variable. And then there's another global variable, it is called password 1234, that stores the correct password. And then it has another static variable, which is balance. And in this case, it is 7,500. So again, it's storing the balance, the correct password, and it has a scanner created as global variables. Then you have your main method, right? Then it gets int, there's a variable int pwd, which I think it is for the password itself. And then it's calling a method get password. How do we know it's a method? Because of the two brackets. So it's calling the method get password. If I go to that method, okay, the question says we're supposed to create those methods. Anyway, so the get password will actually returns the password entered by the user as an int. Okay, and then you check if check password, you send the password that you got from the user. Now check password will take an int password parameter and returns true if the password is valid or false if it is not. So this is going to return a variable return a value true or false, and it has a parameter, the password which you get from the user. Now int amount is equal to get amount, get and store amount. Again, I think get amount will be from the user. So it's a method which returns the amount entered by the user as an int. Perfect. And then if check balance amount, so you check balance and you send the amount that you received from the user. You would say, okay, so this method would check if for instance, so it first of all, it takes the amount that the user has entered, and it would return true if the amount is less than the balance, and it will return false if the amount was greater than the balance. So if it is less than the balance, it is returning true. In that case, you withdraw the cash, meaning in the withdraw method, you uh, update the balance by whatever amount you've sent. So this is the amount from the user. You send it to the method. The method does the calculation using the balance global variable, and then it's just for updating your balance. All right, and otherwise you just print out insufficient funds, and then you display balance, which just displays the current balance. Otherwise, so in this case, if the password check password method returned false, the program would be printing out invalid passwords. So all of this code is basically written for you. All you need to do is create these methods: get password, check password, get amount, check balance, withdraw cash, and then display balance. So all these methods you're supposed to write, and they have been defined here for you to know how to write it. The following static class variables are available to you. The scanner, so you don't have to create scanner in the get methods where you're supposed to get and store the amount, or the password, and the correct password is there for you, stored in the password variable, constant, sorry, because it has the final keyword. And then you have the actual balance for the account. All right. And these are the tests. So if you display the balance, it should display your balance. If you withdraw 500, let's say from this, it should now become 7,000. So that's the thing. Okay. Let's try to write that step by step. So basically the first method would be get password. I'll just write it here because it's easier since the question is like really long, and I would want to refer the picture here. So, okay. In this case, get password. Where is it used, first of all? It's used here. So we know it's returning something because the value which is being returned, we're storing it in int password. So we know the return type will be int, right? So this method returns the password entered by the user as an int. So I'll just copy the name of the method. I'll scroll down and write public static. It's returning int, as we know, name of the method. And does it take anything as a parameter? Nothing. These are empty, and it doesn't even mention in the text. So it doesn't take anything. Keep those brackets empty and your curly brackets for the method. Now here you already have a scanner in, right? So in dot, if we check, it says enter your password. This is the prompt, right? So you would write, before that you would just print out the prompt, system.out.println, enter your password, and then return in dot. You don't even have to create a variable because you're directly returning it, right? So in, because the scanner name is in here, in dot next, because we're reading an integer and returning the integer, in dot next int. That's your password. Okay, so we're done with the first method. The second method is check password. So again, I would write public static because that's always written in a method. Public static, let's find out if it's returning anything. Yes, it's returning true if the password is valid, or false if it is not. True or false is Boolean, right? So Boolean, name of the method. And is it reading any parameters? Method which takes an int password parameter. So we need int password, and that's your method. So return type, you have to check if the text contains any return word, and for parameter, just check if it has a word called takes or return. Oh, sorry, takes or parameters, and then check out what its data type would be. So here, check password. We have to check if password is equal to the static password that has been stored. So I'll just copy this and paste it here. If it is equal, then you just return true. Otherwise, you return false. Okay, so that is your check password. Easy. Now, get amount, again, which returns the amount entered by the user as an int. So it's not taking any parameters because the word takes or parameter is not there. But it has the word returns. So we'll check what are we returning. Basically, the amount that the user has entered as an int. So similarly, how you wrote get password, you can just write public static because that's always required. Int, because we're returning the amount as int. Get amount. And then here, you can write your prompt, system dot out.println. If we go back to check what the prompt is, here, okay, it's basically, it says enter amount, but you can scroll up and see where it's asking for amount. It says enter amount, right? So that is your prompt. Your prompt and everything should match, right? Otherwise, Code Runner will just cry with errors. So enter amount, and then in the similar way, return in dot next int. Okay, so that is your amount. Now the next thing is check balance method, which takes an int parameter. So both takes and parameter is there. An int is mentioned, so that is your parameter, and returns true if the amount is less than the balance, or false if it is not. So again, public static should always be there, because we're returning Boolean, true or false. So it's Boolean, check balance, and then it's taking an int parameter called amount. How do we know that? From the question. It says int amount parameter, and the word takes is also there. So that's your method. If, oops, sorry. So if the the balance basically is stored as a global variable, so we can use that. So we're going to check if amount is less than, let's say, balance. So in this case, even if it is equal to, you can remove it, right? So if I have balance 7,500, I'm removing 7,500, that should be fine. So if it is equal to or less than, then you can return true. I mean, I'm speaking logically. Logically, it would make sense, right? So, and then else, return false. So if it is greater than the balance, if the amount is greater than the balance, it will return false. So that's your check balance method. We have two more methods. The next one is withdraw cache, which takes in an amount parameter, int amount parameter, and updates the balance. Withdraw cache. I'll just write it at the top because I would have to scroll a lot. So public static. Okay, does it return anything? No, because the return word is not there. So in that case, you will write void and then name of the method. Parameter, does it take any parameter? Yes, int amount parameter. So int amount, right? And then here it updates the balance, right? So because we would assume that the balance is always greater than the amount, so you can just write balance is equal to balance minus amount. So that will take balance minus, so 7,500 minus whatever amount is it, and it will store it in balance again. So that's your updating balance. And the last one is just display the balance. So for displaying the balance, it's usually displaying like this. Your balance is, and then the amount, right? So for that one, and it doesn't take any parameter, it doesn't return anything, it just displays. So again, public static void, can I copy it from here? No. Display balance, doesn't take anything, just displays it. So system.out.println your balance is the space, because there's a space between displaying the balance and just the balance variable that stores your actual balance. So I think that's it. We completed all the methods in this question. Let's try to pre-check. Okay, perfect. So it correctly went through every pre-check. Let's click on check. Okay, perfect. So it seems like it's correct. So that's how you would code. Basically, the main code was written for you. You just had to create the methods according to the question, sorry, according to these descriptions. All right. Now let's move to the second question. All right. So this is the second question. Again, it's really long and overwhelming, but let's go through it step by step. All right. So in this exercise, you will write a program that that calculates the cost of sending a package through the international mail service. There are several components that contribute to the cost: the weight, the dimensions of the package, and whether land, air, or sea freight, freight, don't know how that's pronounced, um, freight, I think, is required. Uh, the weight component is calculated by multiplying the weight by a factor based on the following. If the weight is less than 10 kg, then for each kg it should be $0.98. If it's between 10 and 50 kgs, for each of them it should be 1.13 per kg, and then more than 50 kg it should be 1.27 per kg. All items must be packed in standard box-shaped packages. The packages have a length, width, and height in meters. When multiplied by each other, they form the volume of the package in cubic meters. Okay, so if you multiply length, width, and height in meters, that will give you um, the volume of the package in cubic meters. This volume contributes to the cost based on the following table. If it is less than 0.5 cubic meters, the cost is 2.70. If it's 0.3 cubic meters, meter square, sorry, meter, what's the 3 that you say? Cubic, right? Anyway, so 0.3 cubic meter. If it's greater than that, if it is 0.5 or greater than that, then the cost is $4.8. Finally, the method of sending the package contributes to the cost as well. If you send it by land, it's $3. If you send it by sea, it is $5.5. And if you send it by air, it's $7.2. You are supposed to design and implement a Java program that repeatedly asks the user to enter the details about a package and then calculate the calculate the cost of the package. Write the following methods. You're supposed to write a method get dimension. That's the first method we're supposed to write. The method takes as parameter takes parameter to identify which dimension is being entered: height, length, width, weight. Okay, the method takes a parameter to identify which, okay, and asks the user to enter that dimension. For example, enter a dimension and then print out what dimension you're asking for. And the method should check that the value entered by the user is positive. If it is a negative value, then it must force the user to re-enter the value with an error message, and what should be error dimension must be greater than 0. The value should be returned once it is valid. Wow, that's a lot within a method. The next method is calculate weight cost. It says write a method named calculate weight cost that takes the weight as parameter and returns the weight component of the cost, which is this one. Okay, so returns the weight component of the cost for the package to be delivered. Write a method called calculate volume cost, takes three parameters: length, width, and height, returns the volume component of the cost for the package to be delivered. meaning you're supposed to return the costs. All right, so these will be given to you. You're supposed to calculate them. Sorry, these will be given to you in this case, and you're supposed to calculate what is the volume, and then based on that, you're supposed to return the cost. The next method is write a method named determine del method cost, which I think is the delivery, okay, which asks the user to select one of the three possible methods of the delivery of the package: land, sea, air, land, sea, air, and then based on that, and returns the corresponding cost of the selected delivery method. So if the user entered land, you're supposed to return $3. That is what it means. The method should check that the value entered by the user is valid, or it must force the user to re-enter the value with an error message, error invalid delivery method. Okay. The last method is public static void calculate package cost, which uses the preceding methods in an appropriate manner to guide the user through a process of entering details about the package to be delivered and then reporting the total cost of the delivery on the screen. Wow, that's a lot. The main method has already been created for you, thank God, which repeatedly asks for packages details to be entered and then asks if the user wishes to enter details for further. Wait, okay, we're not concerned about that because it's been created. If not, the program stops. Your task is to create the other methods. So from A to E, you're supposed to create all the methods. Make sure to make your methods public static. We always do that. Never forget doing that. A static scanner called input has been created for you. You can use, okay, so static scanner input. The name of the scanner is input. It has been created for you. You don't have to worry about that. Um, so one thing less to do, and you can use it in any of the other methods. Perfect. Now let's look at how it's supposed to be done. This is where I was actually confused because I was like, okay, if they're asking for the enter delivery method, how are we going to enter? Are we supposed to write the name or just the positioning? So in this case, it shows that when you call this method, the user has to enter the actual word. So if they want to send it by land, they have to write land. If they want to send it by sea, they have to write sea, and so on and so forth. And if it's any other word other than this, you just display the invalid delivery method and ask the user to re-enter, which signifies you're supposed to repeat code with a loop. Okay, so I'll pick the shortest one first, and then we'll start doing the rest. Um, I'll go with the first one, which is here as calculate weight cost. So I'll create this method first. I know that it takes parameter weight. So weight, it takes weight as parameter, and I think it is integer. I hope so. It didn't mention, but let's see the example actually. Oh, okay. The weight could be double also. So I'm thinking it can be double. So I think, yeah, let's consider it double for the time being. If there's a problem, we can change it later. So public static, like we always write for the method. The return type here, basically, are we returning anything? Yeah, returns the weight component, which is the cost. And because we're assuming weight to be double, then the cost will also be double because we'll be multiplying it, right? So the return type will be double, the name of the method, and then double weight. So we have to now we have the weight. Now all we have to do is check If the weight is less than 10 kg, then for each kg you have to multiply it with 0.9, so 0.98. So you can do that using an if statement. So if weight is less than 10, actually, is it less than or equal to? Less than 10 kg, yes. So less than 10 kg, meaning it shouldn't be equal to 10 kg in this case. If it is less than 10 kg, just return, or it's better if we create a variable for cost. Double cost initially is 0.0, and then, or you can just write 0, that's also fine. And then cost will be equal to cost multiplied with, oh, sorry, it will be, cost will be equal to weight multiplied with 0.98, because that's the value, right? The factor 0.98 per kg if it is less than 10 kg. So that will be your cost. So the weight will be in kgs, right? So let's say it's 8.5 kgs. So you multiply that with this factor. Now else, if it is between, now there's a range. So that means if a range is given to you, you have to include both of them. All right. So in this case, it will be else if weight is greater than or equal to 10, and with ranges always use and. Okay. And weight is less than or equal to 50. In this case, the cost will be WEIGHT weight, and then the factor is 1.13. So you multiply that with 1.13. Else, if it is greater than 50, so else if weight greater than 50, we're not considering equal to because it's already been considered here. So if it's greater than 50, then in that case, the cost should have a factor for 1.27. Okay, so cost is equal to weight times, okay, and then finally just return the cost. Notice I didn't write, you could have just left this as else also, that's also fine, but I just chose to write it. It's up to you. In that case, if you write it this way, that you do not need else. All right, and then you can just return the cost. So that's your first method, actually the second method. Now we'll try writing this method. This one we'll do at the end along with the other two, but we'll try writing this method now. Calculate volume cost. Does it take a parameter? Yes, it takes three parameters: length, width, and height, and it returns the volume component of the cost for the package. Now here I will write it here so I don't have to keep scrolling down. Public static double. Oh, does it return anything? Yeah, it returns the cost, right? So, and then calculate volume, and then I'm not sure if it is in, again, I'll just consider everything as double. I don't know if, because it is not mentioned if it is in double or int. So it's better to have it in one. Height. What's the third one? Length, height, and width. Okay, length, width, and height. So I'll keep it like that, but because we're multiplying, that doesn't have an issue. So length, width, height. Okay, and then your curly brackets. And here again, we have to have the cost, right? So double cost is equal to 0.0, and then finally return cost, so we don't forget to return, and then we keep checking. So I'll create a volume, basically double volume is equal to, it said you have to multiply all of them together. The question said that here somewhere. The package, when multiplied by each other, they form the volume of the package. All right, so here length, width, and height, and then you start checking. If volume is less than 0.5, the cost is 2.7. If it is less than 0.5, the cost would be 2.7. Otherwise, else if it is more, if it's 0.5 or more, then it should be 4.8. Okay, so cost will be 4.8. I hope it's correct. And then you just finally, like I wrote before, you just return the cost. Okay, so that's your second method also done. Now, I think okay. So for this method now, we are supposed to write a method get dimension. It takes the method, it takes a parameter to identify which dimension is being entered, height, between height, length, width, and weight, and asks the user to enter the dimension in this format. So enter a dimension in whichever dimension they're requesting. The method should check the value entered if it's positive. If it is not, you have to keep telling the user to re-enter. And then if and you're supposed to also display error, dimension must be greater than 0. The value should be returned once it is valid. So we're returning the value that the user gave us. In this case, we'll assume double because it's nothing mentioned, and I feel like height, width, weight, and all of that can be double. It can have points to them. And it takes parameter as height, width, length, width, or weight, which means it actually takes the text height, width, length. So that will be considered as a string. So I'll just copy this name here. Wait, am I recording? Yeah. Okay. And I will just write it here again. Public static double because we're returning the value, name of the method, and string for let's say type. Let's call it type. Okay, and then the first thing we need to do is create a variable double dimension is equal to 0, and then return dimension because that is what we're returning. All right, and then within these two lines we'll write our code. Here we are supposed to first, so it's a do while loop, right? Because we need to display it at least once, and if it is incorrect, then we just keep repeating. So write the do while loop here. You can write system dot out dot print ln enter a dimension, and then in this case we just print the type next to it. So it will print out this way. Enter a dimension. If it was length, it will print out length for you according to the parameter. So once we're done doing that, it said that there's a static scanner for you created already. It's named input, so you don't have to create that scanner. So you can just write dimension, because that's where we will be storing, is equal to input dot next double, because we're reading double, right? Double. Now, if the dimension was negative, less than 0. Wait, does it check for 0 also? It says must be greater than 0, so I think you should also, it shouldn't be less than, it shouldn't be less than or equal to 0, right? So if it is less than or equal to 0, then we have to print this error. I'll just copy that and print it here. System dot out dot print ln. Okay, and then we have to write the while condition next to the do. So you check the bracket after the word do. Where does it end? This one is highlighted, right? So here I would write while 2 brackets semicolon, and within these 2 brackets I will write the condition. The condition is you need to keep looping as long as you're getting a wrong input. As the minute you get a correct input, meaning the minute the dimension is greater than 0, that's when you stop looping. So the true condition for this one would be, let's say dimension, you should be, if it is less than or equal to 0, then keep looping. If it is greater than 0, then this becomes false, and you just leave the loop and return the dimension. All right, so that's your get dimension, dimension, whichever one it is. So we're done with this method, we're done with this method, we're done with this method, and now we're supposed to write the determine delivery method cost. It asks the user to select one of the 3 possible methods of delivery. Enter delivery method, returns the corresponding cost, and the method should check for the value entered by the user if it is valid or not. Okay, similar, very, very, very similar. So public static double for the cost, method name, and I think that's it. No parameter, right? Yeah, doesn't mention any parameter, just returns the cost. So, and you have to display for the user this statement. Okay, and then again, it should be, I'll create double cost variable first and return cost. Okay, and then within this, I can write the do while loop, because we need to keep looping until we get the correct input. All right, so I will print out system dot out dot print ln. Okay, now you have to check if it is equal to name, sea, or air. But before that, okay, here I would just take, let's say, I'll create another uh, variable for string method with empty string. All right, and then I'll say method is equal to input dot input, because it's already created for you, and next because we're reading a text here, because the user will either enter land, sea, or air. All right, and now you have to check if it's either land, sea, or air. Okay, now for this method I'll create a boolean variable called exit, and I will give it a value of false initially. All right. And now I'll start checking. Now, if my if the input that the user gave me, which is stored in method, if it's same as equals, for checking if it is equal to, we need to use the dot equals ignore case method. So equals ignore case, and then you use the word land. So you're saying if the input that the user gave you is the same as land, ignoring the case. If the user wrote it this way, it wouldn't affect. If the user wrote it this way, it wouldn't affect. So any case that the user write, equals ignore case, just checks if it's the same word or not, irrespective of the case. If it is the same word, then you would write exit is equal to true, because you found the correct you found the correct situation, and the cost will be, in this case the cost will be 3.00, right? So I would change the cost to 3.00. The next condition will be for C, so I'll copy the same thing and change it to C. Okay, now here again, I will make exit as true, and I'll change the cost to the respective C cost, which is, I think, 5.5. Okay, oops. The same for air. And then this will be, I think, 7.5 or 7, not sure. 7.2. Okay, 7.2. If it is any other input, then like it is mentioned here, you have to display the error. Okay, system.out.println, and that's your error message. Now we have to write the while, because we've already written the do. We have to end it with a while. Check the bracket. Where is it ending? It's ending here because that's kind of highlighted. And then you would write while, two brackets, semicolon. Within the while, you have to write if exit is equal to false. As long as exit is false, you need to keep looping. All right. The minute exit becomes true, you stop looping. So if exit is true, then this condition will become invalid, and you would just return the cost. All right. So I think we're done with this method also. What it's doing is basically it's looping through the input that the user is giving you. So basically you're printing out to the user, enter a delivery method, you're taking the input from them, you're checking if the user has entered land without any case sensitivity. If it is correct, then you make exit as true, and then you put the cost as the corresponding cost. And then here again, else if, the same way method, you're checking for C, you return true, and you update the cost, and same for air. And if it is any other method, any other input from the user, you print out invalid delivery method, and then you keep looping. All right, and then finally you just return the cost. So that's the method. Now the final method, write a method, public static calculate package cost. Okay, let's start writing that. So we will write it here as public static. Now is it returning something? No, it's just printing out the final cost. It's not returning anything. Oh, I should have looked here. It's void. So you would just write void Okay, and then the method itself, calculate package cost. Does it take any parameters? No, I don't think so. Okay, so the first thing it should do is basically get, if we look here, this is what is happening. You enter the length first, the width, height, weight, all right, and then you have to ask for the delivery method. Okay, I think this is different. Okay. Um, let's just read it through, which uses the preceding methods in an appropriate manner to guide the user through the process of first entering details about the package to be delivered and then reporting the total cost. So I think the first thing that you should ask for the user from the user is the weight. You ask for the weight, then you ask for all the dimensions. Okay, first you ask for all the dimensions, then you calculate the weight, you calculate the volume, and then what else do we do? And then you ask for the delivery method, and then finally display the whole cost. So what we can do is firstly get the dimensions. So I would call the method, let's say here, create a variable double length is equal to get dimension. I'll copy this word from here. I don't know, I'm just trying to see if it's going to work. Double width is equal to get dimension and then width. Double height is equal to get dimension HEIGHT height, and then double weight is equal to get dimension weight. So we have length, width, height, and weight. All right. I will create a variable for the total cost again. So total cost is equal to 0. I have all the dimensions now. Now I can get the cost for the volume. Sorry, the weight first. So total cost is equal to total cost plus get, no, not get, one second. What was the name? Calculate weight cost, because it's going to return a number, right? So I can add that to the total cost and save it in the total cost. And here I will send the weight. Oh, what happened? Here I'll send weight. Okay. Similarly, I'll create another, I'll write total cost again is equal to total cost. The reason I'm adding total cost is because I need to keep track of the previous cost, right? So total cost, I mean, here you can just write total cost is equal to this because there is no previous cost. But here you have to write total cost again because whatever the cost was here, the new value, you need to add it to the previous cost. So here I will call the volume cost. And I will send length, width, and height. So that is my cost for the total cost with the volume. Now again, total cost with the delivery method. So total cost plus, I hope I'm doing this correct, the delivery method cost, and I think that should be it. If and then you need to write total cost. You should display it to the screen, right? So system dot out dot println total cost, total cost. Oh, okay. I think that's it. We did all the methods. Let's say Bismillah and click on pre-check. Oh, okay. Surprisingly, it's correct. Let's click on check. Perfect. So I think that is it. I thought it would be a small video, but because this question was too long, um, but that's how you would actually do it. You just need to create the methods accordingly as they're described and just make sure that you're calculating it properly. And that should be it. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, you can let me know.